Good evening and welcome to the show. We're so glad to have you back with us. We've got a very interesting show for you this evening, and I know you'll get a lot of information. That's why we're here, to make sure you get a lot of information. And as always, as I tell everybody, make sure you have pencil and paper, so write down a lot of the information. Sometimes we may repeat it, sometimes we may not. So if we give a phone number or something else, contact information, we need you to go ahead and write that down. So if you have questions of the guests later on, since it's not a live call-in show, so you can't call in right now, but at least you can follow up by calling the guests later on. And right now I have Linda Fitzgibbons. She's from the NYE County School District, and I had her on once before, and we just ran out of time because there were so many things to talk about. But tonight we're going to be talking about pre-K, which I think is very important. Linda, welcome again to the show.
Well, and thanks for having me back. I appreciate it.
I am so glad to have you back because you were so interesting last time. And I think the listening audience, the viewing audience, they really wanted more information. You know, we talk about things that are happening in education, and we've got to go back where it starts.
Absolutely, and pre-K is the foundation. And one of the things that we talked about the last time we were here was the fact that pre-K is the new K, which is kindergarten, right? And kindergarten is not the way we experienced it when we were children in these days. I mean, kids are expected to be able to already know how to write their name. They're expected to have pre-reading skills. Things like that we did not have to do. We spent a lot of time playing.
That's correct.
In our kindergarten classrooms. And of course, play is important because that's how we learn.
Yes.
It's amazing that the things that we learn through play, and we can talk a little bit more about that too. Our families come into our classrooms and they're like, oh, they're playing. I'm like, but they're learning.
Yes.
They really are learning. So yeah, pre-K is the foundation now. And we call it pre-K instead of calling it preschool. I refer to preschool as mainly for our 3-year-olds, but our pre-K program is truly what it says. It's getting those children ready for kindergarten. Okay.
You know, I start thinking about some of the things that you said as I remember back to my kindergarten days. And yes, I'm not sure how much, I don't think there was any reading.
No.
Just learning numbers, learning how to write my name.
Yeah, how to hold a pencil.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm really anxious to show you what's coming up next. This video that we have coming up was filmed here in Nye County with our pre-K program and our actual pre-K parents. And it's gone, actually, the funny thing, we did it to go statewide originally, but it's now gone international. We've been able to track it, and it's been actually viewed all over the world now. So we're very proud about this. And it gives a really good snapshot of what this program is all about.
Well, we're going to go ahead and watch that video, and I think it's very important that we do. So let's go ahead and run the video, and then we'll come back and talk to you after the video.
Okay, great.
Nevada Early Childhood Education is providing high-quality educational and social-emotional opportunities to young children and their families. For every $1 invested in early education, society receives a return of up to $17. Comprehensive quality early learning results in better outcomes in both females and males. Higher graduation rates, higher adult employment income, higher parental income, more years of education, and improved health. My child now, unlimited potential tomorrow.
It has drawn her more to asking more questions around the house, being more, curious. And when her older brother reads,
she's just more interested in what he's doing because she knows that it's school related and school's exciting.
It's definitely helped just developing their everything, really, from interaction to learning the basics of everything, of just being a person, really. I love it, and they have so much fun.
It impacted my son in the way that it helped him socially, academically, and emotional. And it helped me too because it opened the door to a new career because I helped volunteer in the classroom. And I realized that that was something that I actually like to do, be around children and do that. So it helped me in that way too.
It has just made us really happy seeing Donacio just flourish and just being happier, more enthusiastic about going to school, about learning. So we're seeing a better part of Donacio.
You know, I feel like pre-K helped me learn where to be with my kids, what level I needed to be on. The very first, my oldest, her pre-K year taught me that I was my child's first teacher. It taught me where I needed to be in terms of matching with school and matching with education. So I do feel like pre-K helped both of us in that aspect. And then in return, my son and now my youngest gets the same from that.
It's like a family there. They supported my daughter when she wanted to become an artist. They supported her will to learn, and now she's doing advanced classes in first grade. So they're doing awesome.
In the grand scheme of Olivia's life, I feel that pre-K was instrumental. Olivia still struggles to play school, to do things traditionally, but she has a love for art and she is a fireball, and part of that was her experience through pre-K and really being acknowledged and honored as a human.
Social skills. She never really had friends before. She had a brother and that was about it. And now she has so many friends.
He's learned structure, he's learned routine, he's learned self-confidence, how to deal with just any problems that arise. Like, he's learning how to deal with them on his own and not having mom being there to save him, so to speak.
The Jolly Phonics right now. She's actually learned to read a lot as well. So without the pre-K program, we wouldn't really even be reading as much as we are. And I'm actually seeing that she's picking up words that we're reading, and yeah, it's really cool.
So I feel like the socialization has helped them out a lot, as well as just learning in general. Going into kindergarten and being ready, knowing your ABCs, knowing to at least count to 20 already, knowing how to spell your name, it's been good things.
Confidence. All those different little personalities in there, they learned how to socialize, confidence, appreciate the other person.
She is more than ready for kindergarten now. More than ready.
To me, the most important thing that he has learned in pre-K is how to interact socially with other children. He was very shy. He didn't want to answer questions. He didn't want to talk to people. He didn't know. So it helped him up a lot in that sense. And now he's more confident and he's able to have success academically in his school.
No, absolutely not. We're very low income right now. We're actually on food stamps, so this has tremendously helped.
Could not have been able to send her to pre-K. I was all on my own. I literally had no income when I started pre-K with my oldest daughter. No income whatsoever, and no help in that income factor other than my parents and a place for us to live. So I would have had to figure it out all on my own.
You know, as long as he knows and has a belief that he can go through school, go to college, and that even with the disabilities he has, it's not going to prevent him from doing that. And I think pre-K has done that, because pre-K has given him that love and that want to be there. He doesn't get scared to go to school. He doesn't not want to miss school. He doesn't. And I think that's a big part of his pre-K teacher, Miss M. He still talks about it. I don't even think I think she transferred to a different school here in town. But still, to this day, talks about her, and I think it's because of that relationship really has made him comfortable in school, and hopefully make him stay comfortable in school.
I honestly feel that, you know, as parents that are afraid to let our children go places, you know, some people might call it a bubble, so be it as it may, we love our children very much. And for us to find a group, a team that takes care of them, that we have trust in, is very difficult. And we were very impressed with what our daughter has available and who she has available, and all worries out the window the first time we witnessed how the school is ran and how the classrooms ran. And she's our baby girl. You know, this is a foundation. This is the beginning of how it's all going to go from here, and that can be detrimental if it doesn't go right. I mean, it gives them a different outlook on school from day one.
Yep, I agree.
I sure hope you got a lot out of that video. That video was so important because it tells you exactly why pre-K is so important.
Oh, it really does. And anytime I'm having a bad day, I have that video on my desktop.
Oh,
and
great.
I just watch it because it does my heart so good that to know that what we're doing is making an impact.
It's got to make an impact. This is the beginning of their school lives and their lives. Come back and join us in the next session, and we'll tell you a lot more. Welcome back. We're glad to have you back with us. Again, I have Linda Fitzgibbons from NYE County School District with me as my first guest tonight. And we're talking about pre-K. You just looked at the video, and that video says so much. Linda, what does that video say to you?
Gosh, it does say an awful lot. I think what is most important is the people that are in the video and the parents and what they see that their children are getting out of the program. You know, we know what we're giving the kids in the classroom, and we try to tell our parents all the time, this is what they're learning.
Okay.
Yes, we talked earlier about play. But this is what they're learning, and this is how it's going to take them to that next level to get them ready for kindergarten. And actually what we realize now through research and over time of doing many research projects, and when I say we, I'm talking about the early childhood community,
okay.
And colleges and universities around the United States and around the world, is that pre-K, a high quality pre-K program has long-lasting effects, yes, on the children. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well past kindergarten. And so that's one of the things that, and I think that the parents in this video actually caught on to that. A lot of them talked about that, how this is their foundation. This is the beginning for them.
Yes, it is.
And how this is setting the tone of their school life. So they caught on to that right away.
You know, and I've said it, and I've talked to a lot of people throughout our communities. And one of the things I talked about as a assistant principal and principal for high school and middle school, now I never did the elementary school, but they have to have a foundation. And it's unfortunate that some of our kids that don't get that foundation, they just don't succeed because they're not used to being with their peers, they're not used to dealing with teachers that are not their parents.
Right.
They're just not used to it. And this learning part when they're young, pre-K and kindergarten, that is the foundation.
Absolutely. And the other thing that the parents talked about so much was the social emotional part of it.
Yes.
And you know, that is becoming the new thing, is the social emotional, because what we're finding as we have children later in our, you know, 3rd grade, 4th grade on up, is that if they have behaviors, they're not going to be learning.
That's correct.
Not only are they not going to be learning, but if the behavior is disrupting the classrooms, then the other kids aren't learning too.
That's correct.
So this foundation, this social emotional, foundation that we're setting in the pre-K is so important to be able to allow those kids to gain those skills that they're going to need later on through school so they can learn.
And it also helps the teacher, as you were stating, because if they're disrupting the classroom, the teacher's not teaching.
Absolutely, absolutely. I actually would like to share with you a slide that I brought. It was called Long-Term Impact. And I know it's kind of a fuzzy slide, but this was put out by Education Weekly. And as you can see, it shows there that they have actually done a 20-year study on kids that have been in a pre-K program, a high-quality pre-K program.
Okay.
And what they've been able to show on that is how the decline of use of special education. So for example, you can see once again that let's go back to that slide, there you go, with no early childhood education, 28% of the students needed special education services.
Okay.
But with early childhood education and inclusion, that dropped. Also look at the grade retention there. With no early childhood education, it was high. It was much, much higher. With our grade retention, we have a better grade retention with children that are in early childhood education. And of course, this is one of my favorite ones here. If you have a child in early childhood education, pre-K, look at the graduation rate, how it's gone up. So that's what we were talking about, how they're more likely to graduate from high school, they're less likely to be retained, and they're less likely to be assigned to a special education. So that tells you a lot about a program that takes care of you for just 1 year.
All the positives are there, and that says we definitely need the program for pre-K.
Oh, so much so, it really is. You had mentioned something before the show about, gosh, I just read something about the numbers for the state of Nevada.
Oh yes, in fact, on the news, they're still announcing it, that Nevada is number 49th out of the 50 states as far as education. But there are a lot of different things that impact that when you look at funding, if you look at dedication. And I think Nevada is turning that corner because now they're putting more funds into education. Maybe people are going to have questions and they're going to have debates about that for a long time. But these are the actual results.
Absolutely.
And this is what we're looking at. And you see the educational side where the people are trying. They're making some accomplishments. So earlier we were number 50. Now we're 49.
Yeah.
We're moving in the right direction.
We're moving in the right directions. So 4 years ago, what happened in Nye County and in the state of Nevada, the we actually received a federal grant.
Okay.
Preschool development grant is what it was called. And some of the results from that preschool development grant, now that that grant is over, is actually coming out. I brought another slide with me, and that is one of the things, and this was what I was happy to share with you, about addressing inclusion to support children with disabilities. Here's one of the things, and this was nationwide, and I want you to see Nevada is at the top of the list for this. So basically what you can see on there is that we report, our state, Nevada, one example is Nevada is supporting inclusion through coordinated communication at the state level. But this came all the way down to our level. And I want to tell you what happened in Nye County. Nye County has a big number there and has a lot to do with that 75%. That 75% is a really, really good number because we're at the top for this. And basically, we were a state that had one of the lowest inclusion rates in early childhood, and now we're at the top. So I'm very proud of that, and that's because of the preschool development grant that came to our state 4 years ago.
That is great information. Now I know there's some people out there asking, okay, what does inclusion include?
Okay, that's a great. So we have, let me tell you what happened just this past year, okay? So the preschool development grant ended, the federal grant ended, but our Nevada state legislatures actually picked the ball up and carried us forward, and so we now have funding for the state-funded pre-K program.
Okay.
We opened up through the foresight of our superintendent, Mr. Dale Norton. He wanted to see early childhood. He realizes the value of early childhood and as a foundation for the school district and our future. And so we actually opened up the old Mount Charleston. I refer to it now as the new Mount Charleston Elementary School after being in mothballs for 7 years, and it is a beautiful campus now, and we're so happy. Anyway, we brought in this new, so we have 100, as of yesterday, 146 students that are currently enrolled, all pre-K age.
Okay.
We do have, I'm getting back to inclusion here, Early Childhood Special Education program is in Nye County, and they do 3-year-olds, half-day programs, and they do 4-year-olds that do not fit into our program, into the grant-funded program. So what we also do is we took all of those kids that were that went through the special ed process. Speech, most of them are in speech. Some of them have delays, learning delays, things like that. And guess what? We put them in the regular ed classrooms, just like all of the rest of the kids. So if you were to walk in any high school or any elementary school, you would walk into a classroom, you're not going to know which kids are special education kids and which ones aren't. So that's what inclusion is.
And inclusion works. I've seen it work. Again, I was with the Ramstein High School in Germany and Ramstein Middle School in Germany, and we also had inclusion. We had to, because when we talk about family members of service members, they're all there together.
They're there.
Now, we could separate and have special ed over to the side, but it helped the kids. It helped all the kids. It helped the kids that were not in special ed understand special ed kids.
That's right.
It helped the kids in special ed understand this is what I need to be doing.
Absolutely. So if you have a child that is receiving special ed services for speech, for example, instead of them just being all just to themselves with other kids that have, speech issues, they are now with a regular classroom and they're hearing the language and the way it should be spoken and things like that. So it's a win-win situation all the way around.
And that's what inclusion is all about.
That's what inclusion is all about, and we're at the top of the list.
Top of the list, okay. Kudos.
And I know we're getting close on time, so I would also like to bring up a little bit about what this program is about.
Okay.
Okay, and so I have another flyer for you here. This is a flyer that we send out to all over the place, and this tells you about the program and some of the highlights of our program. As you can see, what we have is we take children that are 4 years old. This program is free, no charge. Parent participation is required.
Okay.
We can talk about that all day long.
Absolutely.
They must meet our eligibility requirements and guidelines for the grant. This is a grant-funded program. It is not open to the general public. You have to qualify for this program. And so that's important. And we have another flyer, or another slide in just a minute that I'll bring your attention to. And that is the income base. So only 2 requirements: 4 years old by September the 30th, and they must be qualified under the income guidelines for the grant requirement.
And parent participation is required.
It is.
I love that.
It is. One of the things that we do is it's mandatory that parents attend a parent orientation. Okay. And then they have to attend a minimum of 4 parenting classes or workshops throughout the year. They have to attend the parent-teacher orientations, parent-teacher conferences, and that's a requirement of our program.
Okay, and one of the things we want to make sure that if you have any questions about any of this, be sure to call and talk to Linda and make sure that she can answer your questions. There's her phone number on the screen right now. Write it down. Call her if you have any questions at all. And again, parent participation, I think, is so important, because without the parents, the kids are just not going to make it.
Well, and once again, this is our foundation, so we want to teach the parents just as much that they are their child's most important teacher.
Absolutely.
And so they need to be 100% involved with their child's education. And so we want to get them started right off the bat.
Okay.
We really do.
And you have another slide you want to show us?
Just real quickly, I brought with us these are the guidelines that we go by. So this is the number of people in their household versus the annual, monthly, or weekly income. So these are the guidelines that we have to use as of right now. So just so somebody can see, oh, I have a family of 3, so this is where I'm at. So that's about all I have on that one.
Okay. Now, you've gotten a lot of information this evening from Linda, and I want you to be able to contact her. Again, we were talking about pre-K for tonight, but Linda is involved in so many other things that deal with our children throughout the entire thing when we talk about Nye County School District. She's so important, and if you have any questions, anything that you'd like to see, anything you'd like us to talk about, give Linda a call. And we thank you for listening to the program tonight, And thank you, Linda, for being here.
Thank you for having me again.
Okay, bye. Welcome back. We're so glad to have you back with us. I have my guest for my last two sessions is Karen Taylor. She's the owner and operator, I'm going to say it that way, of August Services, LLC. And I don't know as much about August Services as I'd like to know. So I'm going to be asking Karen quite a few questions. Karen, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
We are so glad to have you here because the things I've heard about August Services, I said, wait a minute, my audience needs to know what this is all about and how you can really help them in any way.
Yes.
And first of all, we need to know, what is August Services?
We have been open for 4 years.
Okay, here in Pahrump.
Here in Pahrump.
Okay.
Our first division started with our advocacy and care consultation and navigation. And this April, we received our agency license for personal care. So lots of growth.
Okay.
Yes, yes. We also focus, in this last 4 years, we've spent a lot of time getting to know the needs of Pahrump and the gaps in services, collaborating.
Now, when you say gaps in services,
yes.
What are we talking about, gaps in services?
So we can have gaps. One of the most common gaps is there's a lot of services geared towards seniors.
Okay.
There's a lot of services geared towards youth or minors. Yeah. And then what about those 50-year-olds that start to feel the effects of aging?
Yes, yes.
And we start to see the challenges of, we've been on our job quite a while, but we're not close to retirement.
Okay.
And this younger generation is a lot more tech savvy than us. And so our job is a little volatile at the moment. And so we start to look at our needs and we start to see what's happening. And there are some gaps for that age range.
Gotcha, okay. So we see our needs, and what could some of those needs be?
Preparing for the future. That's a hot topic. That's one of my passions, is preparing for the future.
Okay.
Because a lot of times we want to think that we know what happens to other people. It's never going to happen to us. I'm never going to find myself without a job at the end of my career. I'm never going to find myself in poverty. I'm never going to find myself sick. I'm never going to find myself struggling after a surgery. The doctor said surgery is going to be in, out, same day. You'll go home. You'll be back to work in 2 weeks.
Oh, yes. Okay.
And they didn't prepare me for the what ifs. And then also, due to my own life circumstances, being prepared for an emergency. And leaving our house one day and not knowing there was a car accident or something else laying in front of us, and we need to be prepared with our advanced directives. We have a voice in what's going to happen to us medically while we're conscious. When we're unconscious, doctors look to our family members via an advanced directive.
Okay.
And so it's important that we have our advanced directives in writing. It's important that we have a power of attorney in place, especially if we are not married, because first they will look to spouse. And then the chain of command starts to go out a little, spread out from if there's not a spouse available.
Okay.
And so that power of attorney is very important in the medical field. When you have an emergency or an illness and you land in the hospital, that's who has our voice for us. And if that's not in place, then we're in the doctor's hands.
So if somebody needed that, not necessarily just the medical power of attorney, but you talk about the medical care and anything else, the things that you want to happen if you're unconscious, they can contact August Services and you help them prepare those documents?
Sure, we can guide them a couple different avenues to get those in place. First of all, being a listing of attorneys in town that provide those services.
Okay.
Then there's also ways to get those for free through something called 5 Wishes, and we can help guide them through those booklets.
So you do a lot of referral to the areas that you have no control over, is that
Correct.
what you're saying? Okay.
Correct.
And because you're familiar now with the needs of Pahrumpians and the needs in Pahrump, you know where all these other areas are.
Correct.
Okay.
And a lot of that came through facilitating a network called First Friday Network. We meet the first Friday of every month at Inspirations at 9 a.m. in their main dining hall.
Okay.
If you provide a service or sell a product geared specifically towards seniors, we are geared towards the seniors, but that's where I gained a lot of the knowledge of what's available in Pahrump and who to turn to.
Now, because I wear this hat and because everybody knows I'm a veteran, what do you do for veterans?
Sure. So I interact a lot with Brandy Matheny.
Yes.
Yes.
We all know Brandy.
Yes.
Hi, Brandy.
Hi, Brandy. I interact a lot with Brandy. One of my employees' husbands is active with our DAV.
Okay.
And so I can interact with the DAV. Through those two entities, we are familiar with the aid and attendance program benefit that's available, spousal support benefits, and we do not fill out the paperwork ourselves, but we can point those veterans that have not submitted any of those applications directly to the DAV or Brandy for assistance.
Okay. I know too, and I want to go ahead and say this, the VFW is now getting their service officers in line. I know the American Legion is looking at their service officers. And so all the service officers for the different veteran organizations could all work with you on this.
Perfect. Perfect. I would love to interact with them.
Okay.
Yes. One of the ways we can also work with our veterans is, one of the things that's challenging is knowing when do I turn to my TRICARE benefit and can I still use my Medicare benefit?
Okay.
And how do I juggle the two? And that's one of the things that they can reach out to for us in guidance.
So when they have questions and you don't know where to turn, say you're a veteran or non-veteran, and you just don't know where to turn, calling you, we can go ahead and say, I want to talk to Karen Taylor and I want to ask her or let her know what my problem is, and she can recommend as an advocate for me to tell me exactly what I need.
Exactly. Exactly. And that information, there is no charge for our information services.
Okay.
And so do not hesitate to call us. We're a great starting point. Also a great starting point for, I think, my neighbor, I think my sister, I think my dad, I think my mom might have some challenges coming ahead, and I'm noticing differences. At what point do I cry out for help? And then what does that help look like? We would love to have those conversations also.
Okay, when we talk about some of the things where people might have dementia or something else, a medical problem, you don't want everybody in town to know about, but at the same time, you want to get the care that you need. So would that be a time to call you?
Yes, and good point in that we don't want everyone in town to know that we have questions. And so my activity in Dementia Friendly Pahrump is open to the community. Anyone can come and join our organization and get more information, attend our education events. However, when you have those personalized questions, when you want that confidentiality, our service is bound by confidentiality. If I see you in the grocery store and I recognize you from TV, I'm going to interact with you. If you called me 2 hours from now, I will interact with you in a very confidential manner. I will be acknowledging you in that public light. I would say, hi, how are you? And I would start to keep walking, or you can stop me and say, hey, can I ask you a question? I leave it completely up to the individual to respect that confidentiality.
Oh, that's great. Okay. Now, we talk about healthcare services. We talk about, I like the advocacy part, but the aged care. Can you go into that a little bit?
So our care changes as we age.
Yes.
And
our needs.
Definitely. Our challenges.
Yes.
And so that does all change. We have a lot of difference between our insurance plans prior to Medicare and then going into Medicare.
Okay.
So one of the ways that we stay informed in the community and what's available is knowing our insurance representatives and who specializes in the Medicare supplements, so we can gear that way. We can answer a few very general basic questions about health insurance, but we have a list of who to contact for very specific questions. And then also interacting with all of our medical teams in town and first responders. So then also as things change and people start to ask questions, we can direct in the appropriate direction.
Oh, that is great. I think the most important part is the fact that people can call Karen. We put her phone number up several times. Write down that phone number, because if you have any questions and you just say, well, I'm not sure if I qualify for this, I'm not sure if I need that. If you're not sure, call somebody who can answer that question.
Correct.
And she's there, she's willing to answer those questions and put you on the right track.
Correct.
To get the services you need.
Correct.
Okay. You're working with Brandy. Brandy, again, for veterans. How can Brandy help you, and what does Brandy do to help you?
Wow, we've interacted a couple different times. One time was a homeless veteran.
Okay.
I was introduced to and stopped and asked, he was holding a sign that said, I'm a veteran and I have cancer, please help. So I stopped and said, okay, if you have one need I can help you with right now, what is that one need? And he identified he needed help connecting his medical benefits with the VA.
Okay.
Made an immediate call to Brandy. What do we do? How do we connect? And then we started identifying some of those other needs. As I said, he's holding a sign, so we know there's some homing issues available there. And then the immediate access to food and water. And so between Brandy and the Nevada Outreach and myself, we collaborated for about a week to help this gentleman and his beloved get on their feet, start to get their VA medical benefits and their Social Security disability in place.
Okay, with that, look, I know we're running out of time for this first session, but there's so much more that we want to discuss. And Karen is here, and we're going to be talking about that as we end this session and we go on to our next session. So come back and join us. Welcome back. This is our final session, and I have Karen Taylor from August Services LLC with me, and we're talking about all the things that you can do to make your life better. And Karen is here. If you have any questions of anything that we talk about during these last two sessions, be sure to give her a call. Again, it's something that you may just have a question. What can I do in this particular area? Karen may or may not have the answer, but she may know where to get it. So instead of just sitting there wondering and pondering it, give her a call.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay. Now, I know I had one other question, and we talked about it earlier when I talked about what about the age limit, the age requirement or whatever.
Sure. The first 3 years we were open, we specialized with care for seniors.
Okay.
And then in September of 2018, we expanded to adults of all ages.
Adults of all ages. So you're talking 18.
18.
18
and
until.
our oldest has been 100.
Wow.
Yeah.
18 to 100 so far. But if you're over 100, still call.
Still call. There's still a record to be broken.
Okay, that sounds great. Okay, where else are we on this?
Oh, so the services vary, the needs vary. We participate in the dementia friendly. I started speaking about that.
Yeah.
And that's been going on for, I've participated in the Southern Nevada, Dementia Friendly Southern Nevada for 3 years in Las Vegas. And then we just got our own chapter here this last April.
You want to tell us something about Dementia Friendly? I know I attended one meeting. I'd like to attend a lot more, and I intend to attend more. I still get the information, so It's not like I'm not alerted to when your meetings are.
Yes.
And if I can slow down my pace, I plan to attend. And just find out, when you talk about dementia friendly, understanding what other people are going through.
Yes, exactly. There's a stigma with the word dementia.
Yes.
And that stigma, our whole goal is to remove that stigma.
Okay.
Dementia does not change who I am. Well, it changes how I respond.
Yes.
It changes how I interact, but it does not take my identity away. And a lot of times that isn't commonly known. And so we start to see the signs of dementia and back away because we don't know how to react.
Or we react inappropriately.
Yes.
I found, because I had a relative that had dementia, I found myself reacting in a very inappropriate way because it was more debating and getting into arguments that should not have existed had I learned more about dementia first. And that's why I was at the dementia-friendly meeting.
Yes.
And I encourage anybody that may face dementia or someone with dementia, I think both of you should be there. Because then you'll know how to make that communication.
Good intro for something that we have coming up in Pahrump starting September 10th.
What is that?
It's called Care Pro.
Care Pro, okay.
Care Pro. It is a curriculum that is provided by the Alzheimer's Association.
Okay.
Myself, and you might remember Tanya Brum.
Yes.
We facilitate this curriculum.
Okay.
Goes for 10 weeks. It's an every other week program. So the first week you're with us in person going through the curriculum, learning about dementia and caring for someone with dementia. And then the next week you are on the phone consultation with a family care representative from the Alzheimer's Association. And that format follows then for every other week so that we have 5 weeks total in person.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah, very informative, absolutely phenomenal. One of my favorite chapters in the book is talking about our behaviors and our responses and our communication.
Okay.
Yes, and it helps so much to know I'm not the only one going through this. This is common.
That's one of the biggest things that we have whenever we have any situation, is to know we're not alone in this.
Exactly.
And there's always help that's somewhere, but we have to be ready to ask for it.
Exactly. Yes, asking for help is very difficult.
Yes.
Because I think we are tricked into believing that if we ask for help, then we're giving up our independence, which leads into one of the other ways that things that we facilitate in the community is guiding people in that transition of independent living at home to independent living in assisted living or a group home setting or skilled long-term facility. And I'll talk to some people who will say, well, I have to stay at home because I'm not giving up my independence. Just because you change locations, you don't have to give up your independence. That independence might look different. If you came to my house and I said, make yourself at home, but I still want to serve you dinner, your independence looks a little bit different.
Yes.
You're still capable of cooking your own meal, but I've wanted to bless you and I've wanted to serve you. And so that help can still come in various ways. And yet we can still remain independent in our own identity. I think that's what it boils down to. I think the phrase I don't want to give up my independence really means I don't want to lose my identity. And we don't have to lose our identity in asking for help.
That's an educational thing. And so as long as you understand it, then you can accept it.
Exactly.
I like that. Okay.
Exactly. Yes.
Oh. and these are things that you're going to learn when you talk to Karen. If for some reason, again, as I said earlier, that you have some questions when you talk about independence, look, what do I need to do? How can I make sure that my loved ones know what my plans are later on? What can I do about the veteran issues? Something happens, call Karen. Call her and ask her some questions. And like I said before, if she doesn't have the answer, she'll find a way to get it to you or put you in the right direction. That's important.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And the age again is 18. She said adult.
Yes.
So 18 through 100 so far.
100 so far.
But hey, if you're 110, give her a call.
Yes, please. Please. I would love to have coffee with you.
Okay. I do want to go back because veterans out there keep on saying, Tom, look, you're a veteran. You need to focus on veteran needs and veteran issues. I don't want to just focus on that because everybody's not a veteran. But there are some things that veterans need that also fall into non-veteran needs. So what are some of those things?
One of the things I would like veterans to understand is that they can still utilize, I touched on it a little bit in the last segment, they can still utilize their Medicare benefits.
Okay.
And so if you are TRICARE, you can still lean on Medicare. You can go through TRICARE for your doctor's appointments,
okay,
for your prescriptions. You can lean on Medicare when hospice becomes a need. A lot of times TRICARE will give home health over to a private home health company versus a veteran's home health company. And so those services are still available. We're allowed to have a PCA company in place that's paid by the veterans' benefits at the same time that I'm having hospice come into my home paid by the Medicare. The difference is they can't be in the house at the same time. So then you would want a care coordinator. We might know a few. You would need a care coordinator to help juggle that schedule, because if one company is calling in late, the other company needs to be able to come in a little bit later so that, again, we don't cross paths and provide the same billable services to different payees.
It is so important that we know and understand what's available, know and understand where we can go to get the help that we need, and also know that our requests are going to remain confidential.
Yes,
and
exactly.
Again, all of these things is something that August Services LLC provides, and Karen personally, and that's why I said we have her number, give her a call, ask the questions.
Yes.
To sit back and just wonder, I find it's so difficult. You know, we were talking during the break about my survivor's handbook. When I say my survivor's handbook, it was put together by a member of the Military Order of the Purple Heart. It was put together for veterans, and this is something that's put together for a family or a spouse when a veteran passes away. But it's also something that can be used for anybody, not just veterans. It tells you who to call and some of the things that you need to put together. I'm a procrastinator, and unfortunately I'm a procrastinator. I started to put it together for my wife because I don't want her to have any problems when I go. And if something happens, all she's got to do is open it. It's got a table of contents. It tells her exactly where everything is, driver's license, DD Form 214, marriage license, everything is in this folder for her.
Hopefully one of the things that's in that folder is whether or not you have life insurance.
All the life insurance policies are listed, and who to call, and how much they are, and whether it's term or whether it's full life.
That is one of the questions I will have a lot of spouses ask.
Yes.
I don't know if there was any life insurance in place. I don't know if we had prepaid plan in place. Those are hard questions to try to answer after the knowledge bank is gone.
Absolutely. And that's one of the reasons I think we should have something set aside, but the main thing is we know where to go. And that's why we're doing a show like this, to let you know. You can call Karen and say, Karen, look, this is my situation. What should I do about that? And Karen can answer those questions for you.
Yes.
Again, we're going to put her name and number up one more time. Write it down and focus on taking care of you and your family. Karen is here. She's going to make sure that you get the right answers, And we want to thank you, and we're going to ask you to come back to our next show next month. Thank you.
Thank you.